What is up, you guys? We are out in the middle of the Gulf diving this incredible structure in the middle of nowhere. This stuff literally holds life from top all the way down to the bottom, and we are out here trying to spear some fish. We have just a little 3-man crew, but between us, we're hoping to fill the box, and we're also gonna have a little competition on our hands. We are gonna set a challenge, and whoever shoots the most amount of fish gets their expenses of the trip covered by the person who shoots the least amount. Jake, what is your, oh God, what is your idea? What did you just do?
Just lost my knife.
Oh shoot. All right, Drake is already losing stuff, but he already got in the water. He's fired up, and that is number 4 he just put in the boat. And it's been about 5 to 10 minutes. Jake over here, what do you think is gonna happen? Who do you think is gonna get the most, middle, or least?
Dude, obviously I'm really afraid of Drake right now. He's already got 4 before we're even suited up.
Bro, if you're afraid of Drake, talk about the fish. The fish are afraid of Drake right now because he is taking no prisoner. I'm gonna get suited up, I'm gonna get down below, and let's go ahead and cue the voiceovers. All right, you guys, hold your breath with me on this one, and we're actually gonna start off with Drake's GoPro. He's using the DJI Osmo Action Cam. This is actually not the GoPro, so you can kind of get an idea of the different cameras. And let me know in the comments below what you think about the content from his camera as opposed to mine once we switch over to my camera. But that was a really nice, easy first dive, really shallow, and we have a lot more ones like this coming your way. Here we go again with Drake's vantage point on this dive. He goes down, cruising along the column. Obviously, he's not really seeing anything from the surface once he gets to a certain depth, and at this one, it's only 14 feet deep. Goes down, sees top down on these snapper. I usually don't like those head down shots, but he had an easy shot. He's very comfortable taking it, so another fish in the cooler. Now at this point, Drake is absolutely killing it. So we go ahead and switch over to Jake's cam. He hopped in the water, and he's using actually a different type of setup. His gun is strapped to a belt reel, and he only has just shooting line off of his gun. That way he can shoot, rip the fish from the structure, and also quickly reload without having to deal with a reel. But the only disadvantage, if a giant fish comes by, it's going to be a little tougher to land. So he does pretty much exactly what Drake does. He's cruising down, following the fish, top down shot. It's a little deeper, but you can see he started seeing the fish early. But some of the times you just have to start making your way down deeper to get a good shot on the fish, and make sure you're patient and not making any poor shots. You guys, do me a favor, like this video and comment as well. Try to share it around because I'm gonna have to come up with money to pay these guys, because check this out. 15 minutes of diving. That's what they got. Freaking Drake has already shot 7, and Jake was in the water for about 30 seconds and came in with one of the biggest ones of the day. So I'm pretty much screwed, so I can bring you guys content, and I'm missing out and probably gonna have to pay the price. So like, comment, spread it around, and hopefully it's not a huge loss because I am screwed on this challenge. All right, so this next clip, I know Drake it just like pops up out of nowhere, but I'll let him go on what's about to happen right now.
All right, so I spotted this cobia, I pushed record. Not the shot that I wanted to shoot because he was, kind of turning around the rig there, and I didn't want him to get tangled up, but I was able to horse him out. Jake's here asking me, for a second shot. I'm like, yeah, go for it. That was that. It was pretty easy.
Yeah, no,
wasn't much of a fight.
That was good. Yeah, he kind of just gave up there at the end. But yeah, you kind of took the shot you had. It actually turned out to be a good shot.
Yeah, I think it got into his heart or something.
Yeah, so he was pretty gassed, and yeah, it's always to be better safe than sorry. Get that second shot in there, especially if you have the means for it. And there was no fish around. If that other cobia was cruising around with him, then you'd probably tell Jake, like, shoot that other cobia. Yeah, and we'll worry about the effed up situation later.
Yeah.
The other one was doable for sure. I wasn't sure.
Now, I thought that was a cool little vantage point from Drake's perspective, as well as getting his input on the dive. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that, if you think I should bring on divers or maybe do like Zoom calls and go over the footage together, because I do think it's kind of almost podcast style of doing these drops together. Now, whenever we go out on this particular dive, we're going to an area that's a little bit deeper. So you see, it's not the shallow, quick shooting that you're used to. I have to go a little bit deeper, and this is kind of shallow compared to the other dives I was going on. This one's about 44 feet. Nice mangrove. I was hoping for maybe another cobia to show up, but I'll take what I can get. You see me grab the line immediately. And I wish the shooting line was even shorter than this. I could have gone even with a shorter gun, because the viz isn't great, the fish are pretty friendly, and you don't have to make super long shots, and most of the time you just can't because of the visibility. But this was kind of a deeper dive, and we do make a couple of deeper and longer dives here while we're out a little bit deeper, but the viz and the waves are a little bit rough farther out, so we kind of just bounce around different zones, different depths. You guys know I like taking you on the successful dives as well as the unsuccessful dives, just so you guys can learn from my mistakes. So this dive is like any other one I would normally take, following the column down, hoping to start seeing the snapper show up once I get to the right depth, and sure enough, here comes one coasting down to the bottom. I start to follow it, and then I find even a bigger one, and it's really hard to get distracted, or easy to get distracted by these snapper, because you want to get the biggest one, but then you bounce around from different ones. But this one that came in was perfect size, took a shot, and he just dodged the shaft. And that sometimes happens with these snappers, they are really quick, and if you're trying to head shoot them and they're kind of veering away, once that trigger pulls, they'll just quickly dart their head to the side, and usually this shaft just skims along the side of them, and you end up missing.
Holy crap. It is freaking rough and brutal, and I'm pissed off that I'm missing all my shots. I'm definitely losing the competition right now, big time. And I probably would lose even if I'm not filming content, because I just suck today. Just not good at shooting today. Not my day.
How you doing?
I'm just trying not to bang my head on the center console.
Is this some of the craziest stuff you've ever done?
Definitely the craziest stuff I've ever done. This is insane, dude. I don't know how far off we are, beating into God knows what, to this rig that we can barely see in the horizon. I love it.
This is a really cool dive because it's pretty deep. It's almost 80 feet on the dive, and you can see no fish are really showing up at the moment. And what's really cool is something that I see after I shoot this fish on this drop. But following the column down, I end up seeing a really good mangrove snapper on this dive, and he's kind of solo, but once I pull the trigger, you'll see just a ton of life starts to show up. So I'm just coasting down really slow head movements, making my way down to the murk, and once you start seeing that murk, that's usually when the fish start to show up. Sure enough, here come a lot of crevalles, and just a lot of life start popping up once I get to this certain depth, and it's good to just kind of hang out here for just a sec. Beautiful mangrove shows up. I quickly point and shoot, and I'm trying to make sure he doesn't get wrapped all around the wreckage, so I'm just guiding him out of this structure, and I'm making sure I don't stay in the structure, and I'm kind of pulling myself out of this. And as I do, I look down right there, I see it. It's a huge scamp grouper, and if that's not foreshadowing, I don't know what it is, because we end up getting on some really quality fish. And also in part 2 of this, there's even more quality fish, so be sure to stay tuned for that one after this video. Now that I pinpointed this one location, you can see it's just very similar to the dive I just did, and it's because it's the exact same spot. I know the fish are fired up down there. I'm really hoping to get that scamp grouper, but unfortunately I don't get him on this drop. I guess they kind of just bounce around, going from deep water to shallow water, and if they'll come up out of the deep if some commotion goes on. But I make this drop, don't see the scamp, go to roughly the same depth. And again, I'm just kind of cruising down at this point because I'm hoping that the scamp is still just peeking his head over some of these columns. But as I go down, I'm already starting to see the snapper show up. There's those crevalles. Everything is this similar, basically similar as the dive I did before, but just the life keeps popping off once I get to this certain depth. As I'm kind of hovering at this depth, I could go deeper, but again, you lose visibility as you go deeper. But I still do see some really, like a quality snapper giving me that little tail wag, and that's what you want to have happen. Lights out stone shot, that's like perfect scenario. Doesn't have to wrestle around the structure. And in this area, there's really not any sharks, so I don't stress to get the fish to myself immediately. Especially because apparently some of the sharks can be very darty and sporadic if they are around, so I don't want to take my chances. Just go ahead and hoist them up. Fish is not giving me any problems. This is perfect case scenario. Like I said before on the foreshadowing, this is prime time dive. We actually went to a different location, but the fact that the water temperature is a little cooler, some of those grouper like to come up from the bottom. And on this dive, I forget how deep I am. I think I'm in the 30s, maybe 40s. But I just go down hoping to see a snapper, because that's what we've been kind of getting on this one area. But there's really no like quality size ones that are popping up right in front of me. So I just kind of don't want the dive to be a waste. So I'm going down, hanging out, pushing myself a little bit, holding my breath. And I think right now, here come all the AJs and the crevalles. There's a couple of snapper that are darting in and out. Really not giving me a good shot, but yeah, there you go. I'm at 50 feet. But I turn, look back towards the wreckage right there, and that's a scamp. I quickly turn, shoot, and sometimes it's just better to be lucky than good. And I just lights out stone shot this thing. I was going for a headshot or a gill plate shot, but this is easily my personal best scamp grouper. It's a really good one, and I'm pretty stoked about it. And also, those who don't know, scamp grouper are absolutely delicious. All right, we got Drizzy Drake here, and we're just gonna get right into these. We haven't seen these ahead of time, but I follow you with the camera on a couple of them, and I think there's a couple of your perspective, but
Okay.
we got Drake here. Come up next to the
What up? What up? How you guys doing? So right here.
Actually, we're getting into it. There we go. Now we're diving some beautiful clean water.
Okay. So this rig, not the best visibility, but in this case, the fish can get a little more curious and they can come up closer. So I'm probably, I don't even know, like 15, 20 foot down, and a red snapper just swims right up to me, and I happen to stone him.
Perfect.
He's swimming away.
Perfect scenario. And by the way, the GoPro shows way clearer than it actually is.
Oh, really?
Like, I could barely see you on this, honestly.
Oh yeah, and here I am. So I was letting you know, don't hit your head, as you're filming me, and then as we're coming to the surface in this murk, I'm really aware of what's above me, which I don't kind of like doing that because it strains your neck a lot and it's bad for diving, but you have to do it in the rigs.
So you heard Drake talking about watching out for the pillars when you're surfacing, and this is a prime example. Now we're getting into an area where the fish are they're everywhere, and this water starts to clear up quite a bit. So I get a little careless on this dive. I'm going down along this column, and the red snapper are absolutely everywhere on this drop. Go down, this one is massive. Only go to 42 feet to get this guy. Go to shoot, and he does that little flare away. But as I head to the surface, I see the column over there, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm clear of the column. I'm just going to start heading up. And thank God, Jake looks at me and kind of points, and I slammed my shoulder right into this pillar that was going the opposite direction.
Yeah, I fucking tore the wetsuit.
So luckily I'm okay, and I was borrowing Drake's old wetsuit, and it just tore the wetsuit. Luckily it was a 5 mil or 7 mil, something like that. But I got super lucky. It didn't hit my head, or it didn't cut through the wetsuit and cut through my arm. It could have been a really bad situation. This was the only time that happened to me, and I made sure it was the last time. On this drop though, I decided to get a little redemption. Cruising down, seeing some red snapper start flipping upside down, and landed a really good shot. This was my first red snapper on this spot. Really excited about it. They're freaking beautiful fish, really fun to hunt, and as easy as they may seem, if you show them any interest, they're going to kind of push away from you. So you got to kind of just cruise down, not show them interest, and last minute reach out and take the shot. Now that we know the red snapper are around, we just start making drops on this one pillar, and it just seems like every drop we're seeing something. I've decided to go on the upside current of this structure. Now the current isn't really ripping, but there is just a slight bit of current, so I always feel like everything is on the front side, and sure enough, this proves to be very true on this spot. So I'm really glad I made this choice. Start going down, hit almost like, I forget what it is, it'll say on the screen, I think it's maybe between 60 to 80 feet, something like that, maybe 60. And sure enough, here come red snapper. I decide to, wait for the biggest one, and here's a monster scamp grouper. I popped that guy. I wasn't positive on the shot, so I wasn't going to horse him too much. Was really cautious on the pillars, but once I got him to turn, he pretty much just floats to the surface. And I don't I don't force him in. I just am only kicking, and I believe my calf cramped out or one of my calves cramped out at this point. That's why I'm going up so slow. But I'm really stoked about this fish. I just want to make sure I get to the surface and get this guy in my hands, so I know the battle is done, and I landed my best scamp grouper ever. And this is an absolute stud. I think he ended up weighing like 15 pounds.
Scamper. A proper one. Bro, there's so many reds. You just gotta go to like 60 feet and you'll see it, they'll just come into you. This guy came up to me, everything came up to you. 60.
And as I was shooting that scamp, Jake was over there popping those reds, and nothing really beats it. I just love hunting red snapper. They're really good eating fish, and just practicing your technique on spearing these fish on these trips is amazing. It really gives you knowledge and kind of helps you understand the fish behavior of these certain types of fish that you don't hunt all the time. But this is probably after I shot this scamp, getting those reds again. They kind of come in off the distance. This one I'm really taking my time, aim a little bit farther back. Instead of trying to head shoot, I just go for a spine shot, and this shot was absolutely perfect. And I start really dialing it in, not making kind of rush shots. And even if they're swimming away, I just need to make sure my shot isn't like at the head. It's a little bit farther back to where I make sure I get more meat in the fish. And also, if he does do that flare away, or more spear in the fish, and if he does do that flare away, it's still going to get a good chunk of the meat, and I think that's what this shot did. Here we go, yet again, another quality red snapper drop. And you can see I'm pretty much doing the same thing every time. Once I'm no rush to gut, brain, bleed the fish to get him back to the boat. But I cruise down, sure enough, I'm probably only maybe 30 feet at this point before I start seeing fish. And we're going for mangroves as well, but just, man, these reds were everywhere. Kind of come in, I do the same thing, aimed a little bit farther forward because he was a little more broadside, and absolutely lights out stoned this guy. Really dialing it in. Once this starts happening, it's a bad time for the fish. They really, I really start to get confident in my shot, and that's really goes a long way to where you're really making quality shots every single time. And there goes Drake with the sub-NATO. If you haven't seen that stuff, check out some of my other videos where I use it, he uses it, and we do some insanely deep drops with that thing. So the day is kind of winding down, and it starts to be in the afternoon, and I'm gonna take you along on some of these drops. And towards the end, it gets crazy and a little sketchy. Jake here, you have him with the with his little rife, and you see how he just has the shooting line. Pops that fish. Nice mangrove, and he's probably just a few feet under the surface, which is pretty insane. But like I said, we're at the end of the day, and we start getting into some mangroves, and the fish kind of start to pop off in the afternoon. But I'm just gonna kind of let you guys chill along with these dives. It's really this same thing over and over again, but I mean, sometimes you just can't get enough of it, seeing the different situations. And by this last video, you'll see something pretty wild that doesn't happen on every drop. But you see, he's only at like 28 feet right here. And a freaking AJ just comes right up to him, and the GoPro makes it look a lot farther. That thing was probably going to take a bite out of his GoPro before he had to like put his hand out and shoo it away. And that's a little foreshadowing for something crazy that's about to happen here in a minute on a couple of dives ahead of here. So I believe this is my GoPro, heading down with the Rob Allen again. Barely go under the surface. The fish seem to be a little bit more friendly later in the afternoon, only 14 feet. This stud came out, waiting for him to clear the pillars before I take the shot because I don't want to mess up my shaft. Ended up being a perfect shot. I believe I spined him. Yeah, I spined him. And even when this happens, I always like to brain the fish just because they could either come to life, and also it just puts them out of their misery and ends the suffering. This dive is absolutely wild. It seems like a normal dive. It's like I said, it's late afternoon. Drake is in the boat. Jake is in the boat. I'm heading down. Mangroves are everywhere. I don't have to go super deep, only 25 feet. But you see what happens after I shoot this fish. Making sure I take a good shot. This guy ran a little bit, and that brought in some predators, but not the usual ones. Those AJs start to get super fired up. I end up having to knee one of them, and I think they were I was a little worried they were going to get my shaft or something, so I just kneed it and then just had to get out of there. Pretty wild experience. Never happened to me before.
All right, you guys, it is the end of the day, and we got some fish. Just check out that deck right there. We whacked them. Holy smokes. And then we also got... So it's safe to say probably that I shot the least amount of fish, and Drake definitely shot the most. But I did shoot the prize scamp grouper right there, baby. That is a gem, and it is an absolute giant. But we are calling it. We are good. The sun is almost down, so we have a long run to get in. I'm actually gonna see you guys back at the place when I have to Venmo Drake the money for his trip. So
I obviously lost. But we'll see if he has some mercy on me since I got that prize grouper. So we will see you guys back at the crib. All right, you guys, we made it back to the truck. We are actually sending it back, and that was just one day of diving, so there's a lot more action coming your way. But a bet is a bet. Drake,
give me my money.
Drake needs
I want my money.
Bro, look at that merch though. That merch though.
Let's go.
That merch. And also I got the new merch drop. Be sure to check it out at the end of this video. Teamed up with Red Rums. The new design came out great and their material is just unmatched. But like I said, a deal is a deal. I got the Venmo app coming up right now. One day of diving is about 500 per person. So my share of that day was 500. I already got it ready to go. Here we go, Drakey boy. Drake just became $500 richer. Lucky dog. But that's what happens. Today I sucked, but I was able to bring you guys some content, and that really makes me happy more than just shooting fish. Drake, on the other hand, likes to kill things.
Let's go.
All right, but if you guys enjoyed this one, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to follow along on all the adventures. And like always, I'll see you guys next week for another adventure. Later.